Hi friends, how do you think you would be able to handle this situation? Your fairly new marriage about a year long has already come crashing down due to infidelity. Would you play it cool, calm, and collective? Would you go scorched earth? Well, how about we follow along in this story and see how our OP handled himself during this really trying and tough time. So let's get it going, shall we? Today's story coming from u/nogain2432. Cheating wife. So, my
26F.
wife, call her M, cheated on me
27M.
with a
Friend.
of mine.
27M.
Call him J for the story's sake. A bit of backstory. We met when I was 22 at another friend's wedding. She was a good friend of the bride and I the groom, and they sat us at that table so we could get together. When I first seen her, I was completely taken back by how beautiful she was, and when she sat down, we began to talk. We found out we had a lot of things in common. We clicked instantly. We talked for a while, ate the dinner, and took to the dance floor. We danced and drank through the night. We ended up kissing in the middle of the dance floor, and when we pulled away, our friends,
The bride and groom.
came up to us and asked what was up between us.
They were really excited to play matchmaker.
We just shrugged it off and carried on with our night. We left not exchanging numbers, but about a week later, I got a text from her asking me out.
Bride gave her my number.
I of course said yes, and it turned into a relationship. The relationship was great. Other than small arguments, we never really fought, and it was never anything really serious. I eventually asked her to marry me about 2 years into us dating, and we were married less than a year later. We were married for a little more than a year when it all came crashing down on me. Just before our first anniversary, there were little things that were irritating me. She became more guarded of her phone,
Girls' nights.
became more frequent, and our sex life was almost non-existent. I had brought this up on multiple occasions but was brushed off, and that I'm
letting my insecurities get to me.
She would continue to go on as if what I felt and tried to communicate didn't matter to her. So I became colder and colder. I stopped giving her a goodbye kiss as I leave for work, and unless it was something important, we hardly spoke. One night, while she slept, I took her phone and laptop and skimmed through her text, emails and messenger apps and found nothing. And from reading stories on here, I checked her car. I grabbed her keys and looked in her car and I found a second phone. I knew in that instant what was going on, but I wanted all the evidence for when I call her out. I didn't want her to say something like it had only happened once or anything stupid like that. I looked through the phone and found only one number. I read through every message. I connected the phone to my computer and printed out every message and every photo and spent the night researching divorce lawyers. I spent hours of my day in my at-home office reading bios of lawyers and found one that I liked and emailed him. But as it was a Saturday, he wasn't in the office. I then wanted to know who the guy was. So I grabbed my phone and typed the number. I wanted to call and pretend I'm Spectrum, because who doesn't have Spectrum? But Jay's contact popped up. It took me a minute to put two and two together, but when I did, I blew up. I was yelling and cursing in my office and my wife opened the door to check on me, but when I see her, I told her to get the F out. She closed the door and went to our room. I had never cursed at my wife or raised my voice above a normal volume. All of the day, I never left my office. I was just silently raging, just glaring at the wall. I called one of my friends,
Groom from the wedding.
and tell him I need to go for a drink and asks if he'll come with me. He must have heard something in my voice because he asked if I was okay. I told him I wasn't and I really need to drink. So, without word, I took all the printouts and left to go to the bar. I arrived, first ordered 4 shots of Jack and a beer. I was on my last shot when my friend
Call him T.
arrived and asked what's going on. I told him straight out, M's cheating. He gave me sympathy and I asked if he wanted to know with who and told him it was Jay. He became visibly irritated. He was the one that introduced me to Jay, and all he could say was I'm sorry over and over. Jay and I were never super close. We wouldn't ask one another to hang out, but if we see each other at a get together, we were friendly. I told T don't mention this to anyone as I had just found out and I haven't even spoken to M or a lawyer yet. I asked him not to tell his wife, and if she asked what was wrong with me, to say I'm having problems at work. He agreed. We drank and talked for most of the night, then I called an Uber and went home around 3 a.m. It was the first time I looked at my phone since I called T, and there were missed calls bunch of texts, all from M, asking me where I was and when I'd be home and if I was okay. I got home and she was asleep on the couch. I just walked up to the bedroom and went to sleep. I woke up with her in the bed, so I got dressed and left the house. I went to go pick up my car and go to my office and buried myself in work for the day and went back home around 10 p.m. To my surprise, my wife was there to greet me, and she told me she had made me dinner. She asked if I wanted her to heat it up. I told her no and went to bed. She followed soon after, asking what's been wrong with me. I told her to leave me alone and that I wanted to sleep. She kept pestering me. Eventually, I snapped and yelled, "M, stop. I'm trying to sleep. Go away." The next morning, I received an email from the lawyer asking to meet later in the day, and I confirmed and got ready for my day. I went downstairs to leave, and M had made breakfast, asking to talk. I made a small plate and sat down. She started by saying I've been acting different and going on about how I changed. She wants to know why. I told her work has been stressful and soon it will be all over. I finished up and told her I've got to go. I went to my office and counted down the minutes to go to meet the lawyer. When I left, I told my assistant I'm going out to lunch with a client.
My wife would call my work sometimes.
And left. The meeting with the lawyer went well, and I handed over all I had gathered on her, and the lawyer had told me, "Well, I'm sorry for all that's going on, but I'm happy you gathered all this information. You see, we live in an at-fault state, so your wife has no claim on most of your money." I told him I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking, I've got to divorce her as soon as possible. He asked to keep the evidence, but I told him I prefer you to just make copies, as I haven't told my wife I knew yet and I don't want to hear her excuses. He agreed and had his assistant make copies. I asked when she will be served with papers. He told me about 2 weeks. I then thanked him and left. I went home to confront my wife. When I arrived, she wasn't home. So I called her, no answer. Called again, no answer. I texted her.
I don't give an F if you're writing J right now. Get home. We need to talk.
Lo and behold, she calls me not a minute later asking what I was talking about. All I told her was, "Get home now." She arrives about 15 minutes later and I said to her, "Wow, look at that, 15 minutes. That's about the same distance between here and Jay's, isn't it?" She looked at me, dumbfounded. I gave her a minute to gather herself, but she was just looking at me, and I said, "Well, nothing to say?" She tried to deny and gaslight me, and I let her continue on. She worked herself up and started to insult me. I slammed my fist on the table to shut her up and pulled out the evidence at first and showed it from the side and said, "Look at this mountain of things I gathered on you." Then I showed her each printout at a time. She then tells me to stop and started to cry. She tried to apologize and tells me she loved me, and I said, "Honey, what happened to that energy you had before? You were so adamant on degrading and insulting me just a minute ago." She tried to hug me and tell me how sorry she is. I put my hand out and told her, "Don't touch me." She says, "We'll go to the bedroom and do whatever I like." I looked her deep in her eyes and told her, "Sweetheart, I will never touch you again. Do you want to know who else has these photos and messages? My lawyer. I'm divorcing you now. Get a bag, gather your clothes, and get the F out of my house." That was 3 days ago, and I haven't heard from her. I'm sorry about how long this is, and if there are any spelling errors. I'm curious to those who have been where I'm at, what can I expect from here? Thank you for reading. Well, damn, OP. I must give you props for keeping yourself composed through all of this. Good job on keeping all that evidence to yourself, so you could drop that sweet, sweet bomb on your soon-to-be ex-wife. And I think it's time for some community feedback. Taking it from the top, from Wraith Luminos. Bravo! You handled that like a champion. Now, first and foremost, take her off any and all financials to protect yourself and change passwords on everything. Next, get an STD test. And don't, for the love of everything holy, do anything in a state of anger. Meaning, as much as you might feel like hurting her, or Jay, don't. Listen to your lawyer's advice and ask him if you can change the locks on the house, as she has effectively abandoned the marital home. Don't drink or do drugs, and prepare for the inevitable. That being the begging, gaslighting, and blame shifting that will come. She might also try to paint you as the villain in this story to justify her betrayal, so tell everyone what she's done and why you are divorcing her. That includes parents, friends, and if Jay gets a girlfriend or spouse, then especially her. Channel your anger and rage into some form of exercise. It will help you calm down and tire you out to help you sleep, which will become harder as the reality of the situation sinks in. Good luck and keep us posted. Wow, Wraith Luminos. That was some amazing advice. Be sure to take notes out there, peeps. just in case. OP responds, much appreciated for the advice. I'll stick to that. Lawyer told me all communication between her and I should go through him, so hopefully I won't be talking to her at all. Jay does have a fiance, and I will be telling her. Good on you, OP. She certainly deserves to know. And now from Enforcement X. How do you plan on contacting Jay's fiance? I'm sure he knows that you know, and will likely be on the lookout for anything in the mail, or you showing up at the house, etc. Hopefully he doesn't have access to monitor her email/socials. OP responds, I met her a few times. I have her number and I will try to contact her until she answers, and if she doesn't, I'll go to their house when he's at work. I'll put a note in her car to contact me. I won't let that POS get away scot-free. And let's get in a few more. From Close the Window. Is there any way that you could be my new best friend and send me just 1/10 of your strength, integrity, and bravery? Yeah, Close the Window, I can't blame you for asking that. Our OP here handled this like a true professional. And our OP responds, LOL, it's not strength or bravery. It's my sheer will to screw all of them over and to get some sort of justice for myself out of all this. Chode Tripper. Amen, brother. Soul Special 21. You, my friend, are a savage, and I love it. It's bad enough for someone to cheat, but it's so much worse when they cheat with someone you actually know. I think trying to talk to the fiancé is a great idea. Nobody deserves to be treated like this, and I hope you can heal and find someone who is truly right for you. Sending hugs. And one final reply from the OP. Thank you. I know it'll suck for a while, but I'll work through it. Well, OP, by the way you've handled yourself so far, dare me to say, I think you're gonna be okay, man. Thank you very much for sharing your story. And this is where your favorite commander leaves you. Hope to see you again, everybody. Would you be able to handle the situation the way the OP has handled it? Let me know in the comments, please. And I know that you know that I know that you know where that like and subscribe button is. So feel free to click on those buttons at your leisure. Until next time, friends, CB is signing off. 07.